G'day and welcome to Kenty Blitz, your daily hit of NRL news. Kenty, a lot happening in Newcastle since we sat down yesterday. I want to spend some time this afternoon with you and go through this piece by piece because there is a lot happening there and there's a lot to unpick.
Yeah, a lot going on. Obviously, it started out with speculation that Adam O'Brien was they were looking to replace him, and it quickly grew into the fact that Kalyn Ponga has engaged a rugby union manager from New Zealand, I'm led to believe, who is currently exploring contracts for him to switch to rugby union. This is despite the fact he's obviously got years to go on his Newcastle deal. So it's shocked everyone, and they initially. Look, they're never going to be unrelated, but initially they were reported as being unrelated, but there's clearly a connection there of what's going on.
Well, let's go back a step because yesterday afternoon the news broke that Adam O'Brien was potentially getting the sack at the end of the year with 2 years to go.
Yep. We
kind of looked at his form and thought, okay, well, it kind of makes sense. They haven't performed very well.
Well, they haven't done well this year, but this is his sixth season at Newcastle, and he's made semis in 4 of the previous 5. So he hasn't got an atrocious record. And to be fair, given the roster the Knights have had, I think Adam O'Brien's done a pretty good job there with that roster. The club needed a complete rebuild after a decade or so ago, going through the Tinkler era and
Wayne Bennett.
Wayne Bennett. Well, Wayne was part of it, and Nathan Brown was part of it. They just lost a lot of juniors. The club needed a complete rebuild. It was on the verge of going broke. The West Leagues conglomerate up there came in and got involved. A lot's happened. Whether you can argue that enough has been done remains, that's up for argument, I suppose. But I think Adam O'Brien, given what he's had to deal with, has done a good job. The question is whether the Knights could have attracted more players or whatever if someone else was coaching, I suppose. That's what the argument they'll use against him.
Okay, and so that broke yesterday, and then subsequently to that came this Kalyn Ponga story. And then when we look at Kalyn Ponga this year, we look at his form, and we've spoken here on the show a number of times about his poor form. Do you think the coach is in the back of his mind, or do you think he's...
I think what's happened is like this. So, okay, the Adam O'Brien story broke first. Then the news broke of Kalyn Ponga. Now, Kalyn's not looking to go to, they're exploring the option of going to a new rugby competition called R360, which is backed by Saudi billionaires. It's basically a rebel breakaway league, which and because it's got the Saudi money behind it, that funding of it won't be a problem, and there's every chance that it will completely upset the established sporting codes as they are, rugby union, the way it's going.
I just want to talk about a little bit about that because we heard about that probably 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah.
And at that stage, there were rugby league players who play for the top teams, New South Wales and Queensland, who actually had Zoom calls with the head of that competition and had offers on the table.
Well, it's funny. Just quickly, you want to dive back. This is essentially like a Super League situation. The difference now is when you went back and Super League happened in the NRL or rugby league back then in 1995, the players still had a great bond with their club and with their teammates, and they, in their naive little way, they thought that what they were doing was the right thing, and that they were still sticking by their club and sticking by their teammates and all the rest of it. Clearly, it didn't eventuate that way. The change in the modern player is this is all about them. The players know what's going to happen. They're aware of the upheaval this will cause, and they're aware that they're walking out on teammates and they're walking out on clubs who have invested heavily in them. And essentially, they'll use the argument, I'm doing what's best for my family, and I've only got a short career. So that's the difference in mentality. So that's happened. That's been around. They are still pushing through with that. Like I said, the fact that the Saudi billionaires are behind it shows that they're not going to be easily swayed off it. Okay, so there's more chance than not that it will eventually get up. It's just a matter they just need to get past the tipping point of a player mass and have enough players there that can put it all together. But I think they will by the looks of it. Now, Kalyn's looking at that. That seems to be the impetus for what's now happening with O'Brien. So Kalyn is looking at that, and we're led to believe that it's essentially an unhappiness with his career at the moment, that he does not believe the Knights are going to deliver a premiership in those high sort of sporting moments that he clearly is capable of. Okay, he plays Test football for. He plays for Australia, but he blotted his copybook back there. He plays State of Origin, but things like premierships and like that are probably you'd be a brave man to say the Knights are going to win a premiership during his time at the club.
So Kalyn Ponga, do you think he can just get up now? What's the regulations about him getting up now and leaving?
No, he can't leave. Look, he's got a contract. He can walk out. He can say, I'm not playing at the club anymore.
Or he can mutually split.
What will happen is what always happens is some sort of form of compensation will be paid out. That happened when Sonny Bill Williams walked out on Canterbury. He thought because he was going to another code, he could just leave. And that's what he did. Just left. I'm not going to play Canterbury anymore. I don't care. They've got years to go on my contract. I'm out of here. And he left. Anyway, the Bulldogs took him to court. The Bulldogs won the court case. He was ordered to pay $450,000 compensation to the Bulldogs. That will happen if Kalyn walks out. That will happen. Now, if he walks out to take up this contract with the Saudi billionaires, I think they'd just happily pay it. Okay, like they've got so much money, it would not worry them. So that'll happen. But you've got to take it back, Warren, to the genesis of why he's in this place. Why is he unhappy? Why? And it goes back to, I think, he's questioning what's left of his career. He's 27 years old. He's at the peak of his powers. He's probably got 2 or 3 more years at that peak before his own skills begin to erode a little bit. And what's he going to achieve in those 2 or 3 years? So that's why he's restless at the Knights at the moment, because I think, without having spoken to him, I think deep down he feels like he's going to be unfulfilled, which is why he's got an eye open elsewhere. Now, that then brings into the situation with Adam O'Brien.
Can I just cut you off there? If you're on $1.4 million, right?
Yeah.
And there's going to be a lot of people out there going, well, if you're on 1.4, surely you understand that you're taking up 1/13 of the salary cap.
That's exactly
and you can't get other players of the quality that you need to win grand finals when you're taking when you're the largest paid player in the comp.
When you're taking so much money, it begins to take a big chunk of the salary cap, which then affects their ability to go out and buy other quality players. Now, for example, let's go to Tom Brady for years took less than his market value at the New England Patriots in the NFL because he wanted the club to spend money on the players around him, and he backed himself to compensate that money that he was foregoing at his football team with all the endorsements and all the rest of it. Now, Kalyn's getting that as well, but he does love a dollar, and he essentially wanted as much money as he could. He really squeezed the Knights down on his last deal. He took a lot of money out of that club, and the deal was... I don't think it was beneficial to the club. I think the club panicked that they were going to lose him. And I remember talking about it at the time, that they paid overs for him. They needed a massive upswing in his contribution. I don't think he's delivered that, okay, for what they're paying. It's a lot of money. Nathan Cleary's not getting the money he's getting. Okay, let's put it in that perspective. Nobody else in the game is getting what he's getting, and he cannot improve the team much beyond 8th place.
So if you want to win a comp, why don't you go to, I guess, a bit like Turbo did and said, I'm ready to take a bit less money to spread the wealth.
There you go. Turbo did that. He was prepared.
They knocked him back. But
and that's where you got to have I think that should have been given more discussion by the NRL.
Yep.
Okay. He was prepared to take less money so they could keep players essentially at the club that they were in danger of losing. And I think that's a really selfless act. I don't think he was given enough credit for that. But that is where some clubs have got ahead. Turbo's on a lot of money. He realises that, and he wanted to share the money around and backed himself in those other areas, the endorsements and whatever, to get to be compensated there.
It's interesting because, we talk about good clubs and we always say, well, good clubs attract players on unders, whereas Newcastle...
Yeah, they're paying overs. But the other thing too is the good clubs have a really strict discipline. Okay. I remember talking to a CEO one day about Des Hasler, of all people, who's under his own stress at the moment. But he said Des would sit there and say, mate, we really need to sign this guy. If you can get him for 450, get him for 450. But if you have to go to 6, go to 6. So the chief executive would open discussions at 450. His manager would open discussions at 700, and they would negotiate But as long as they got somewhere in that window, they thought they'd done the right deal. Okay, if they couldn't get him below that, they just had to say, look, you know what? Sorry, we can't go there, and let them go. It is a discipline to sit there and pay the right amount of money. The minute you pay overs for a player, your whole cap gets out of shape. And it's very simple. The 200,000 extra you're paying Kalyn Ponga, that's 200,000. That means you're a really good $800,000 5/8 or halfback that they might need, which would put them in the top half dozen.
Yeah.
They can only now pay 600, which then puts them a level below quality of what they're looking at.
Well, keep that thought, because I want to come back to that, because I think it's an important part of this. I just want to move on to now. So the Knights are now said to be considering Blake Green, who's the assistant coach. He's also the attack coach.
He's also the attack coach. Now, the reason they are considering, this is where it all comes together. This, Warren, I think, is the key to it all. It breaks about Adam O'Brien. They're looking to replace him. Kalyn Ponga is looking to go elsewhere. I'm led to believe that whenever Kalyn wants to sit down, talk footy and discuss tactics and events at the club, game plans at the club, all of it, he goes to Blake Green.
Wow.
As the assistant. He doesn't go to Adam O'Brien. Now, I'm sure there'll be some conversations. He doesn't blank Adam O'Brien.
Yeah.
But the guy he trusts and the guy he feels that he's got the bond with is Blake Green.
Wow.
Now, that would make sense from the point of view of why, one, that Kalyn is dissatisfied with some of the coaching he's getting at Newcastle. It would explain why Newcastle are looking to move beyond Adam O'Brien, despite the fact he's got 2 more years on his contract. And it would also explain then why they're considering Blake Green. And let me throw this up. He is their attacking coach. The Knights had the worst attack in the competition.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
Let's remember at the start of the year, they were scoring 8 points a game, 12 points a game. They could not score enough points to win the game.
We spent a few minutes talking about that not so long ago, right?
Yeah, and they've got 251 points they scored this season. And the next best, Parramatta, have scored 200. Next worst, I should say, is 297. So they're still 5 tries behind Parramatta over the length of the season. Now they're well and truly the worst attacking team in the comp. Blake Green runs that attack. Now the argument for Blake Green is that he runs the attack that Adam O'Brien wants, and he's in charge of orchestrating that. And he might make these radical changes if he ever gets a head coaching role. I don't know about all that. But that's the key to it. The key to it appears to be Kalyn doesn't have the faith in Adam O'Brien. He does back Blake Green, which is why the club is now looking to move Adam O'Brien on to keep and will promote Blake Green to keep Kalyn Ponga at the club. Now that's a lot of wheels in motion. Okay,
there's a long time looking at that today.
Yeah, but that's what this is. This is rugby league politics 101.
Yeah, it's amazing.
This is so common in the game, okay? Generally, it doesn't become as public as this, and the smart clubs, they get ahead of it. They see the problem, they get ahead of it.
So what you're saying is sacking O'Brien's a preemptive strike?
Sacking O'Brien is a way to keep Kalyn Ponga at the club. That's what I think they're looking to do. I think they believe Kalyn Ponga is gone and will take a rugby union offer or somewhere. He won't go and play at another NRL club. There's no way in the world the Knights would release him to go and play at an NRL club. I don't think an NRL club could pay the money, the compensation for that to happen, okay? I don't think they want to take his wage on at another NRL club is the second thing. So I don't think he'll go to another NRL club. He'll go if he leaves. This is very early stages. It can all change. He'll go to rugby union. He'll take that money that's on offer for this new bowl R360 plan to play rugby around the world. The Saudi billionaires will pay the compensation, whatever that entails. He will go there straight away and be a marketing superstar. He will be a big name coming into that competition. So he'll be a bit of a coup for them. And look, there's no doubt he'd kill it either. You know, he'd be a very good player. But I think the Knights are trying to get ahead of this now by understanding that they're about to lose him. The way they think they can keep him is to appoint Blake Green as head coach.
Very good. Kenty, I want to continue on this, but just before we do that, we've got a message from PointsBet, our sponsor.
Come on, ref, he's offside.
This NRL season, try PointsBet's new 5 for 25. Answer 5 questions, get $25 odds. The fast and easy way to bet on rugby league. PointsBet, built different.
What are you really gambling with?
So now, Kenty, let's look at this from another perspective. Does Kalyn leaving give Newcastle an opportunity to reset their salary cap? And look, they remove the top paid player in the game. Yeah, and they can reset.
Look. I don't think they want to let him go. Firstly, okay. I think they will fight to save him. Mm-hmm. But if he walks out on the club, they will. I don't think they will happily say, "Mate, go." Mm-hmm. But it is an opportunity. What it is. The Knights, as I said, their salary cap has been bent out of shape. It's even more so when Dylan Brown arrives there next year. They're going to have a quarter of their salary cap invested in 2 players of their 30. That's a massive investment. And the point to that is, it stops them spending quality money elsewhere. That's where it's going to bite them. In some ways, you could argue that the Knights have got an opportunity here to actually get some balance back in their club. Okay, now it's a big sacrifice. It's a big loss, but and it would change the way I suppose the way that they've sort of structured their whole club and the way they've done that. The money's all invested in. A little bit like Melbourne a few years back when Melbourne got caught with a salary cap. Melbourne made a specific plan to put their money into the big 3. So Cooper Cronk, Billy Slater, Cameron Smith, okay? And that money went there. And Craig Bellamy was very good at going and identifying tradesmen in other areas that would come and do their job, but he had the 3 superstars there to deliver and obviously did a magnificent job, okay? Other clubs like to spread their money. Canterbury, for instance, have done a good job of spreading their money. What they do, the Roosters, for all the Mickey that gets taken out of them, and what they do, they spread their money. It's not all going into 1 or 2 players. And Canberra are another good example. Canberra, you'd be hard pressed to find who is the highest paid player at Canberra. If you ask 10 people, you get 6 different answers. Okay. You know what I mean? So from that point of view, the Knights do have an opportunity there. I don't think they'll take it. I think they'll fight to hang on to Kalyn.
And why do you think that? Do you think it's a panic by them? Do you think they're...
I think it's inexperience. Look, the problem with the Knights is they're run now by the Western Suburbs Leagues Club up there, and Phil Gardner's the boss. Phil Gardner has done a great job of building that empire up there with all the clubs, but he's not a football person as such. And Warren, we went through this period in rugby league many years ago where we thought there's not enough intelligent people in rugby league. So we went out and we appointed all these businessmen as either CEOs or board members and all the rest of it. And what we soon found out was they didn't, as smart as they were, they didn't know the business of rugby league. And they were just getting played off a break. Rugby league is a snake pit, okay? If you go in there naively and you think it's all going to be honourable and you know what I mean, everything's above board, you're kidding yourself. And the game doesn't work that way. And a lot of these people came into the game and got found out very quickly. And the Knights, I think the Knights made a naive decision giving Kalyn so much. They panicked. They didn't want to be embarrassed by him leaving the club. And they didn't hold their nerve at what they did with their limit back then in this current contract. And I think, they did this. Why they went and then put all that money into Dylan Brown, nobody thought he was worth that. Okay, the argument was you're worth what they're willing to pay. Well, Dylan Brown found his Alan Bond. Okay, in Newcastle Knights. So that's where that's at. And I think it'll come down to that again. The Knights, through ego, will be unwilling to let him go. I think they'll do everything to try and save him. And while some people would say, you know what, mate, this is an opportunity to get him out of the club and to get some balance back in your cap, they won't do it. They'll fight to keep him.
Oh, yeah. I looked up Statmate before, who's a Kenty Blitz sponsor, and saw that he's actually been out 37% of his games for Newcastle. Missed most of last season. Well, and he's gone for the rest of this season. He's
gone for the rest of this season, and his absence will probably cost them a semi-final because it doesn't look like they're going to make that this year.
No chance.
Okay, but that's the other issue. Look, injuries are unfortunate, and you can't really hold that against a player.
Of course.
Okay, but second to that, when a player is repeatedly injured, surely that has to affect their value. If someone wants to sell you a nice car but it keeps breaking down, it affects the value of the car. That's just the truth. That is, and 37% of his games is a lot of games to miss. Like he's missing 1 in every 3. That's a lot of games to miss, and particularly at a club whose record is essentially they're a 50-50 club. They win as many as they lose. So they need him as often as possible. And you wonder how much that would change if he was playing more often.
So is he value for money?
No, he's not value for money. Like, he's a great player. But, yeah, the Knights could argue differently. They could say, well, he brings in people through the crowd. Yes, he does. He brings endorsements and sponsorships to the club and all that. So he does do all that. Important. But in purely football terms, he's not worth, what's he on, 13% of their cap?
Yeah.
13% of their cap. And he's playing 63% of games. Like, from that point of view, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. But you can't, who knows what's going forward. He might play the rest of his career and never miss a game.
Yep.
Once he comes back from injury.
Yes, of course. Yeah. So, mate, let's have a little look now. So, excuse me. Let's have a little look now. We're assuming Kalyn's gone, right, for our discussion.
Well,
I know. We think he's
look, I don't know if he's gone because the other thing was if the rugby thing falls over. Then he's got nowhere to go then.
Well, the Roosters, there's been so many rumours.
And because he said nothing, he won't go to the Roosters, because he said nothing, if, for example, his manager in New Zealand comes back in the next week and says, look, mate, there's no interest there, or the only interest there is they'll pay you $500 a year, but you're on 1.3 up there, he might just say, look, I'm going to stay. And then he'll come out and he'll do a press conference and say, look, I don't know where all this came from. I never considered leaving.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So, and then everyone looks like it's all been made up through the media, and we're just full of rubbish again. So, look, it's got a 1,000 different endings. This story at the moment.
I like Kalyn Ponga as you do.
Well, everyone likes him.
We're talking about
there's no reason to dislike him.
No, I was just talking about more as a player in your team. But if you look at what Newcastle could do, right? Because Fletcher Sharp goes back to fullback. He's a natural fullback, 21 years old or 20 years old. And so all of a sudden then you go out and you get your halfback. You've got Dylan Brown at 6. You've got Fletcher Sharp at the back, and then you can go out and get your marquee halfback. So as much as Kalyn's a great player, perhaps this is better for Newcastle.
Well, look, Adam O'Brien was at Melbourne when they went through that period where they were investing in the big three. So he's seen it up close. He's seen how it works. He's clearly got an idea that he can make that similar situation work at Newcastle, which would explain why they're paying 1.3, depending on what year it is for Kalyn, and they're paying 1.3, 1.2 for Dylan Brown next year when he arrives. Okay, so he's seen that. He's got a plan. He obviously thinks he knows how he can make that work. He just puts in workers around them, guys who are going to come and do their job, and he leaves the special stuff to them. And to be fair, they are both in creative positions. They're 5/8, and there is talking about play halfback, but 5/8 and fullback, or halfback and fullback, depending on what they do with Brown when he arrives. So there's no doubt there's a plan there from Adam O'Brien. The question now is whether he survives to orchestrate the plan, because it looks like this is all still swirling around. I think there's a lot to happen. The funny part is if they sit down, the Knights threaten to say, okay, we're not going to let you go. There'll be compensation required if you just walk out. Then they'll decide on that sort of figure. And he might just in the end just say, look, and if the offer from R360 is not big enough or lucrative enough, he might just say, no, I'm going to stay here. But certainly it's picked up what's happening at Newcastle a little bit. It's sort of opened a window on what's going on inside the club there at the moment.
Yeah, it's interesting because if they do make that move, and Kalyn does leave, they need a halfback, and there's not that many halfbacks available. And I mean, you can always orchestrate a move for.
You just get some bloke that's left the Titans, and he might be able to play halfback for you.
Yeah, there you go. So, mates, the last thing on Newcastle. So the club today have announced that they're going to sign Gagai and Frizzell. On the back of the fans voting. Yeah. What do you think of that?
Well, look, I think both have had very good seasons this year. They are obviously nearing the end of their career. The club had made a decision to move on from them. Did not pick up. Both had options in their contracts that the club didn't pick up. The fans have then come out and put a petition together. This is seen now as a victory for fan power. And looks like they're both going to be re-signed now for another season. Now, one, if the money's right, it might be a good deal. We don't know what they're paying, but I'll say this: it was Jack Gibson years ago. If you listen to the fans, you'll soon be sitting with them. Yeah, okay. And again, I think it comes down to the naivety of club management. That if this is a decision driven by that, which they won't say it is, they'll come out and say, no, we reassess. We've seen the value of what they've done, and I hope that is true. But clearly, they are very sensitive to fan reaction in Newcastle. They are a club that's, my experience in the game for as long as I've been and dealing with all the clubs is they are a club, particularly in this current regime, that is very sensitive to criticism. And they do a lot to avoid that, and so it wouldn't surprise me if they look more deeply at signing both those players to avoid fan backlash.
The Steel City, apparently.
Don't know about Steel.
Okay, the last part about this whole Newcastle question is our mate who we spoke about a lot earlier in the season, Dylan Brown. Where's that leave him?
Well, he must be disappointed. Like, can you imagine? He's invested in Newcastle's future, thinking he's going to play with Kalyn Ponga. Now that clearly would have been a discussion.
And coached by Adam O'Brien.
Yeah, and coached by Adam O'Brien, true. But that would have been a carrot that Newcastle dangled in front of him, mate. That you'll be getting the ball and you'll be passing to Kalyn Ponga at full flight. So if he's now sitting here thinking, and particularly if Kalyn goes, surely he's got to sit back and go, whoa, what have I done? Okay, so it'll be disappointing for him, but I don't think he's got a choice in it.
And 1.3 kind of makes it easier to deal with.
Well, yeah, it does. But the thing about that, Warren, and this is why I think Kalyn's looking to move as well, players, they come into the game, they have this love for the game, they just want to play first grade. Then they get a little bit further down the line, and money, I think mid-20s does become important, and that's when they start to understand the value of the dollar and they want to start trying to really sort of ring out and get the most money they can. And then as you get a little bit further down your career, which I think is where Kalyn is heading now, is you start to say, well, what have I really done? Okay. Now, he's done a lot, okay? He's played for Australia and he's played Origin, but he hasn't really transformed the team. No. Okay. He's been their best player. He's won the Dally M. But he hasn't had that high of being even deep into the semis. They've only won one semi-final since he's been at the club, okay? So I don't think that he's really getting that emotional fulfillment there. And I think that's probably what he's searching for now, which is completely understandable, okay? We get that.
Imagine when he gets to 50 like us and you start searching for things.
Well, yeah.
Midlife crisis.
Anyway.
Mate.
If you find it, let me know.
I'm still searching. Yeah, I'm still searching. Anyway, mate, I read an interesting thing on Jason Riles talking about Dylan Brown, just to finish off on him, was saying that he was aware before the June 30 deadline that he wasn't going to be playing six for Parramatta, and still decided to stay rather than move on to Newcastle.
And I think that's an indication of his character.
Yeah, I found that quite interesting.
Yeah, and good on him. Good on him. He stuck it out. He told Jason Riles he's happy to see it through. It's going to be interesting this week what happens, because teams will be picked later today, but where they've named Dylan Brown, we don't know, and what they do with him and how they get him through the rest of the season now, because they do have players coming, Talon Silva's obviously joined the club. The hooking role's done. Joash Papali's going to stay at 5'8", at least for the short term, you would imagine. So where he ends up and what ends up happening for him for the rest of the season remains to be seen. But it was a good sign from him, I think. He's a footballer, Dylan Brown. I'm really excited about Dylan Brown. I think when he was a kid coming through, I thought, gee, this kid's going to be anything. So I hope his progression continues.
Yeah, that'll be great. Last thing for the day. Lockie Galvin expected to partner Matt Burton.
Well, good luck.
Can we cut off what we talked about yesterday? We were talking about everything seems to be up on the air, doesn't it?
Yeah, look, Cameron Serraldo clearly has a plan. He's not allowing anyone else to know that plan.
He's definitely not telling us.
But, yeah, good on him. Look, all he has to do, Serraldo, with trying to fit 3 into 2, which is always delicate, is manage to get all 3 of them through to finals time in a happy state of mind, feeling they've been fairly treated, feeling they've been given every opportunity, and feeling that the best footballers will be the ones selected. Okay? Clearly, Galvin is the future of the club. Sexton is leaving the club. But Sexton has done a good job. Yeah, we spoke about him yesterday. We got comments about how little impact he's had in the try scoring department at the Bulldogs. No try assists this year, which is almost extraordinary for a halfback, and would also explain why the club has gone looking elsewhere, why they got Galvin in as quickly as possible. That said, though, Sexton has been playing okay since Galvin arrived. It's like he's answered the challenge. Okay, he's taken it up. So we wait and see. I don't think anyone knows. I don't think Cameron Ciraldo is sure how it will eventuate. But I think he's very much, okay, this is what I'm planning, this is what we're going to look at, and he'll run that plan until he sees something that makes him think he's got to change that plan. And what that is, who knows? But I'll tell you what, I'm not going to question what he says.
And they're not going to tell us for sure.
Yeah.
Remember, Wednesday's Ask Kenty Day. Now, we've seen it's been ripped off a bit, the old Ask Kentys.
It's been around, yeah.
It's been around, the original OG Ask Kenty here. So leave your comments, leave your questions down below. We spend a bit of time on Wednesday going through those. Until then, thank you very much. See you tomorrow.